Chapter 24, The Battle for Endurance. As you reflect on all the things we have just experienced on our journey here together, I want to leave you with some final thoughts about what I have learned that helped me maintain my courage and freedom now more than ever. And I hope it helps you in yours. At the beginning of 2020, I chose 2 words that were going to be my words to declare or embrace for the year. They were discipline and endurance. These 2 words have really made an impact in my life as I had to adapt to the COVID-19 pandemic. After a few weeks into this new normal, I remember getting really excited about creating some positive content for online viewers. On one particular day, I showed a 20-minute video that had taken me 3 days to prepare, record, and edit. When only 3 people showed up to watch, my first reaction was, of course, disappointment. For a moment, I even wondered, what's the point? Why am I wasting my time? And before I even made it back upstairs from my little studio, God spoke these words into my heart. I would have gone to the cross for one. And with that, I was reminded about the mentality I began my ministry with. You see, I have always believed if what I do touches just one person, it's worth it. Before this pandemic, the amount of people who responded to my content had never mattered. Why now, after 4 years of speaking, blogging, and posting, am I being affected this way? Why? And I realized the reason. I had started making decisions about my online presence based on what I thought was best, or some of my self-imposed comparison pressure that I was feeling, rather than on what God had in mind or even assigned for me to do. God said, Vianne, keep leading with your heart and don't get in your head. Resist striving in your own strength according to your preconceived ideas. He continued by saying this. Doesn't matter what you post as long as you're sharing from your heart. If in a year from now you are still in this pandemic being forced into isolation, people will need to see the joy you have more than any well put together performance. So if anything attacks your endurance in this season, let it go. Your joy will be the best thing you can offer people who are losing hope. You see, having the discipline to stay close and show that the joy of the Lord is your strength will be the message that will never lose its effect. That word spoken into my heart that day rings louder now as I read this than even on the day it was first given. I realize now, although the things that I do out of obedience to Him may take a lot of work and discipline, but the moment something affects my endurance or makes me want to quit, it's time to stop and discern where that's coming from. If the overload is because of self-imposed comparison or something I've taken on that the Lord had not assigned, that is when letting it go becomes my obedient response to Him. I knew God was teaching me to have endurance in a way I had not yet understood. You see, it's not always easy to discern if something is a hindrance to your endurance or a struggle presented to strengthen or prepare you for an assignment. Because if I'm honest, my default to struggle was always that if it's too hard or uncomfortable, just let it go. And that's not healthy. If you're always running from a struggle, you can't grow. For example, remember that Hope Conference that I tried desperately to let go of? Having the discipline to press through helped me build endurance. This opposition was definitely an opportunity for growth. The real takeaway was that God was increasing my capacity. When people want to know how I have learned to discern which response is a hindrance to my endurance or a struggle presented to strengthen or prepare me for an assignment, I tell them that I begin my day with God. And during the day, if there's anything that threatens my endurance or attempts me to quit, I immediately go back to Him to direct me. Even that has been a hard skill to learn, let me tell you. It's not easy. There is a new cycle that I have adapted to that has helped me to sustain my endurance, and I want to share that with you. And it's this: fight, retreat, rest, refresh, and repeat. Want me to say it again? Fight, retreat, rest, refresh, and repeat. I am more aware now more than ever that I need to be disciplined to cycle through these stages and go through them more rapidly than I ever had before. Staying in one stage, however, too long will provide harmful to maintaining my endurance of peace, my endurance of patience, my endurance of joy. Knowing when to sit and rest or say no is just as important as knowing when to run and fight the battles that are raging all around us. If you get tired physically or restless in your spirit and you are tempted to give up, stop, retreat, rest, refresh, and repeat. Understanding that this is a journey of endurance, not a sprint, has proven most beneficial in my life. Protecting my endurance in all the areas of my life continues to be so important. While learning to build my endurance by going back to God with everything I was feeling, a very real lie of the enemy was exposed. You see, the enemy tried to make me feel that God was bothered by all the times I was needing Him. That might sound silly, but the lie would try to consume my attention, especially in the middle of the day when I felt the need to just go and throw myself on my bed and cry out to Him in prayer, asking God to just hold me. With no words other than, God, I'm hurting. Please hold me. Just that simple act of going to Him about the little things was even more important than running to Him for the big things. But do you know what the enemy would keep saying to me? There you go, running to God again. I can't explain it any other way than to say that he was trying everything he could to keep me away from God. But when I started to really see that the strength and courage I would gain from being in God's presence, fear had no more control over me. That accusing and belittling voice was silenced. I remember my breakthrough day very well. That was the day that God helped me reject the lie that I was bothering Him. He spoke into my heart these words. He said, "How many times do you call your mom?" Some days I would lose count of the many calls we made back and forth to each other, day or night, anytime. My mom would always pick up the phone. God helped me see that I could come to Him just as often and as much as I needed Him. He's always there too. And even if you don't need anything, He said, I want you to come and just sit with me. You know, as a result, He is now my dear friend. How are you with handling the struggles of life? Are you overwhelmed or losing your endurance to keep going? I would like to challenge you to try my approach. My life is the evidence that it works, but more importantly, a relationship with God works. I can't help but think of this endorsement by Jeremiah Rival regarding contagious courage.
Contagious courage is going to be a great tool and an inspiration for many because of Vian's never give up, never back down attitudes. She takes away the millions of excuses that we all have for not doing X, Y, or Z. And each person that reads Contagious Courage will come face to face with the challenge for them to take their very next step. Imagine if millions of people around the world had that kind of contagious courage. And that's what I see as a result of Vian's book, Contagious Courage.
When I was at youth camp back in the day, they taught us this phrase about the impact of influencing one person. It went a little like this with my simple spin at the end. If everyone won one, and everyone who won one would win one, everyone would have contagious courage. Did you catch that? It's a tongue twister, I know, and kind of silly, but I think you get my point. My last and final thought as I leave you is this. I pray that as you reflect on my life's journey, you'll note many lessons learned that are similar to yours. But even more than that, I pray that you see how your courage can become contagious. And one day, maybe even today, as you share your lived through experiences with others you meet, that your life and your words will make it in someone else's survival guide. And that you will begin to not only see, but truly experience contagious courage.